All right, what's up, people? What's interesting is that I'm actually making this same day as I made the last video. I'm probably going to upload them at the same time, which is gonna fuck with my view count. But you know what? If you know me, you know I don't give a shit about view counts. Because I think what's gonna happen is people are gonna start realizing some shit. They're going to put two and two together and then boom. So, this is going to be 902. Now, I know I said in 901 part 3 that there is nothing more to learn, and there really isn't. However, we can start parsing things a little bit. And one of the biggest things that we have to parse is the concept of the sentient being. Now, obviously, if you have any understanding of reality, you think naively that you can divide the world into two parts. Into sentient beings and what might be called objects, right? So like this chair, this table, these are obviously objects. I personally am a sentient being, so are you, blah, 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 right? So a sentient being is somebody or something or some process or whatever. See, because what's going to happen is this is going to get difficult. That has some kind of awareness of the world around them. So what counts as awareness? Well, we might have to get back to that. When you really get into a deep dive into the Buddhist texts, what they teach you, and again, like I say, by postmodern Satanism, you're going to get Longchenpa's Semsnig Ramyol, Sems Nyid Rangrol, sorry. You're going to get that. That's the most perfect tantra there is. Once you understand what's really going on there, it's going to blow your fucking mind, because what you're going to realize is that all of the conventions of thinking, oh yeah, Bobby Flay, again. I love Bobby Flay because he always wins. But the point being is that you have a primordial process whereby what might be called knowledge or awareness or consciousness, or you can put a lot of labels on it. What it's called in the teachings is basically Sems Nyid, the nature of mind. It's not the mind itself, because the mind itself is an illusion. It's the nature of mind. It's the ability for things to present themselves in a subject-object dichotomy. So if I'm the subject and those are the objects, that's the dichotomy in which it's presented. That's a sentient being. Now, the thing is, once you understand that space and time are relative, and that time is actually somewhat of an illusion up onto space. So like space is basically, if we imagine that all of reality exists, time itself is like, it's a weird cut up onto space. I might get into that in some other video. But just take it from me right now is basically that you can imagine that time and space exist in some continuum that is atemporal. So even time itself becomes a spatial aspect, right? So now what you have is you have a panorama of existence. You have a panorama of projection of what? Sentient, the nature of mind. Now, what Buddhism teaches at the highest level is that this is always going to be poisoned. And the reason why it's always poisoned, and the Buddhists, when they look, nobody's perfect. When they came out with these teachings, they were like, well, they always wanted to put numbers on everything. So it's the 5 poisons, right? So the 5 poisons are the poisons of X and the poisons of Y, the poisons of Z, etc. That's not what's important. The point that's very important about this is that just by you being, okay, for example, if I create, well, I don't create it. It's all out there, atemporally, aspatially, etc. But to itself, it appears to be a monad. It appears to be a soul or a self or something, because it then dichotomizes the world against and above itself. It sucks it's like, you ever see those movies where it's like everything freezes down to like, it freezes down and then boom, it explodes into like everything moves at 1 minute. That's what's going on. Those are the 5 poisons. The idea is basically this. Consciousness is so powerful that what it does is that it allows for everything, every single thing to be experienced. And then when those things are experienced, they're drawn in. Like, for example, this world, the world that we collectively inhabit, which is one of many. Like I said, Myriad Worlds. It's a book. It's on my shelf. Look it up. There's another video where I mentioned that. I'm not going to do it again. The concept is that consciousness itself, just by its very nature, creates what are called sentient beings. Sentient beings are essentially focal points that are limited in time and space via their own, like, okay, let's say you have a multiverse. Let's say you have a multiverse that has many layers. So like you might have a sentient being up here, a sentient being down here. And this one is like, for example, I'm up here and my pet dog is down here, even though I don't have a pet dog. We're both sentient beings. Why? Because we both have a perception, a reality bending mentation of the world. As it might be, of course. As it is, of course not. Because what's really going on is, this is, well, I alluded to this in my last 900 series video, is you have what's called the vase body. The vase body is basically Dharmakaya, but they can't say it's Dharmakaya because you're not allowed to say that because of religion and shit. So you basically have the vase body and it's shattered. So imagine you shatter that and you break it into 1 billion pieces, or like infinite number of pieces. And each one of those pieces holds a tiny aspect of that thing, of that awareness, of Sentient. Then it becomes degraded into just Sems, just mind. And that's where you get the dichotomy between what are called sentient beings and Buddhas, because the Buddha is the one, they're both the same, but the Buddha is when it hits that point where you really understand everything that's going on. And then you realize it's all the same. Just like I said in my last video, there is no further teaching than that. But the concept of a sentient being is essentially that everything possesses sentience. And this is where you start getting into some fucking disagreements with people, because they're like, oh, you mean that has sentience? Yes. Oh, this has sentience? Doesn't look so sentient to me. Looks like it's just an object. Exactly. But you look like an object to me, and I look like an object to you. The only difference is that you can say something. But sentience is not about that. Because, see, the thing is, everything goes far, far deeper than you can possibly understand. Because if I take this plant here, is it real or fake? It's actually real. What about this one over here? Real or fake? No, it's real too. Fuck it. How about this one? Yeah. It's also real. Had to dump the water out on my hand to find out it was real. Is this book sentient? Is that crow out there sentient? Yes. Yes to all of the above. And the reason why is, once you understand, again, this is a 900 level video. I'm not putting this on. I was going to do it with the other one, not. Because once you understand what's really going on, and you see the matrix for what it really is, and how everything is really collaborating with everything else to create a world in which things like this are possible, you realize that pretty much everything is a sentient being. Because, again, remember, Anatman, no self. Then once you start disaggregating the composition of things, if I break this thing down into atoms, into cells, where are we? Sentience is everything. Now you look at, and again, I'm going to plug this guy again, Donald Hoffman. He's a physicist. He's come to this conclusion just by the physics. Everything that we inhabit in this world is conscious. It's not like the chair is not, no, that's not what he's saying. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's a product of consciousness, and it partakes in that consciousness. Why? Because there is a level that is beneath your understanding. All you see is the surface. That's all you see. The shit that's below that, you have no concept of. So sentient beings is kind of like, think of it this way. If you really want to be, petty about it, you could think of it as like the foam on the top of the sea. Which, by the way, in the Greek myth, that was where Aphrodite came from. And who was Aphrodite? goddess of love. Anywho,